Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 42. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro. With me is the symbiote himself.
Paul, hey everybody. I am repping Mario today.
Yeah.
Uh since
Which is kind of
92,
fitting.
baby.
Yeah, where did you get that shirt, by the way? It looks
I
really
got this
cool.
from Target.
Really.
Yeah.
The one in Louisiana or there in
Oh, in,
North
in North
Carolina?
Carolina. I just picked this one up. It was like 15 bucks.
That's not bad.
So big victory for me. I love it. But yeah, that's what is going on with me today. How's it going on your end?
Yeah, just chilling. Can you believe the month is over? Like
Uh-uh.
by the time we record next week,
I
it's
think you ask me
November.
that
Yeah,
almost every episode, and I'm
that's
like,
how yeah,
no,
that's how this year feels. That
get
is just
this
we're
out of
just so
my
business.
face.
Yeah, it's just
Passage
so
of
freaking
time,
busy.
please.
Yeah, it's just nuts, absolutely nuts. But it's like, hey, it's like I can complain because in other years we would just be like trying to like make by or try to be entertained, and this year it's just been nonstop. We're like the great
Yeah.
games over and over and over and over and over one and another one, literally tonight, like coming soon, which has just been absolute madness. Like, what are you? Actually, we have just been too spoiled at this point, way too spoiled. It's like every other year now. Like, I kind of mentioned it over, but I feel like this is going to ruin the entire. This year is probably ruining the entire generation forever for us, because like, just think about it, Paul. Like, how many franchises that we love got represented this year had really great games, all almost back to back to back to back. That it feels like even a game like Zelda earlier this year didn't even have enough time for it to be like the conversation, even as loud as that conversation was, because that's how big everything has been, almost nonstop. I'm gonna be real depressed by the time that we hit December, and then we have to hit the reality that is.
I think I am really praying that these games are good enough that I can go back and like re-experience them in a more
Mhm.
spread out way.
Yeah,
Even the ones that were a lot buggier at launch and like everything's fixed, all the new game plus is posted in. Just I find that revisiting a game a year or two after it actually
mhm.
happens is almost always for me way more positive
Yeah.
than like playing them on release nowadays. I
Uh,
don't know if it's like this weird nostalgia thing or if it's just I can sit back and breathe with the game's world more,
yeah.
but man, it feels a lot better.
I look at it kind of like movies. Like, what makes my favorite movies my favorite movies? How much do I want to re-experience them again? Like, I understand the value of one and dones, but the things that to me are like my all-time favorite things are the ones that I'm always desiring to like experiencing over and over and over again. Sometimes for that nostalgia, but it's because it has kind of that kind of power. So I get that. Like, even for example, like how I knew that I was so high on God of War 2018 was when I replayed it in 2020 during the pandemic. That's when I knew that that probably was like in that upper echelon for me of like all-time favorite game, not from just when I initially played it. Replays can sometimes help. Replays can also hinder. Look what happened to you with Jedi Survivor this year. So
I will acknowledge that, yes.
yeah, so I think it can go both ways, but I think but I feel like even with them, it's always good to like replay something, because sometimes like when you're in the heat of the moment, like just may not be as subjective. Remember when I was like, Tears of the Kingdom is my favorite game of all time, like within the week that
Yep.
we played it. So it was like
And then I heard
they're
that about four more times this year.
yeah. So that's why I'm like, yeah, it's always good to at least let something stew a little bit more, because otherwise it's just you may say things that you may regret. Like even like for example, my Jedi Survivor review that I reviewed very highly. I still feel highly about that game, but I went very high, like in all things considered. So, but yeah, Paul, is like I can't wait to talk about more stuff, and just kind of like as a little bit of housekeeping, just about what's happening. Obviously, we're recording this episode after me and Paul have both played, finished, and platinum Marvel Spider-Man 2. We were thinking of doing like an immediate spoiler cast for this episode, but then we realized that a lot is sort of happening kind of like around it, that just kind of like I did with the season gaming guys that I brought in with with an extra episode, or the episode I did with Richard Hogue from Hogue Law last week, that was like a bonus episode. Our Marvel Spider-Man talk is going to be a bonus episode for this week too, where that's where we're gonna consolidate all our thoughts, even though we can briefly say stuff about that game here in the main episode. So yeah, you're getting 2 episodes again, like kind of keeping the ball rolling for October, of giving more episodes to the people. That has helped a lot with like the algorithm, I tell you. But yeah, just as a reminder, this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/Escape Gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, one of the reasons, Paul, that I wanted to split this and not just make it about Spider-Man is because Super Mario Bros. Wonder came out, and I played that as soon as it came out. I blasted through that game in 2 days. I beat it on Saturday. I wrote my first review in the criticalcorner.com in over a year, because I've been writing for Season Gaming, but there were other writers that were going to write about those games there. But I had enough thoughts that I was like, yeah, it's time to go back to the Critical Corner is my thing. And I have AdSense anyway. So it's like, I haven't taken much advantage of that. So yeah, I want to play that. But before I say my stuff, like, I let you borrow my accounts for you to play Super Mario Wonder because you were not planning on it. What do you think?
I was actually pleasantly surprised. I kind of like how everybody, it sounds like, was.
Mm-hmm.
It looked just from the start that it was a little bit something different and something new. And I know that's what a lot of the Mario fans have been looking for, especially the ones that aren't just all on PC, where it sounds like all of the real competition, in air quotes, for Mario games has been lately.
Yeah.
I know,
like we're talking about 2D platformers. Yeah,
yes,
2D platformers
specifically. Yeah. For like Tiny Thor, I think people mentioned, and then there was something else that I don't remember.
Pizza Guy, he mentioned that also.
It's funny, I'll just make up words sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like an indie 2D platformer.
That's just the indie scene.
That's just how they are, I guess. But yeah, like, to get back on track, it really sounds like they did something new. They really took a shot. The Wonder powers are really cool because it's not just your regular process to get to the end, or there's like a secret path, but like you hit the Wonder Seed, I think they call them.
Yeah, the Wonder
Seed. And then
just
everything gets really wonky and crazy. Either like turns into like this chase sequence, or you have to go hunt something down, or there's buffalo coming to run you over.
Or piranha singings.
Yeah, or the time where Mario turns into like a black silhouette and he gets the really long body. And I was like, what the crap is going on with this? But it's like, it was cool because that's what you used to get out of Mario. Like there was no benchmark, there was no status quo. Whenever you plugged in a new Mario game, you were going to get some weird stuff going on. Every time. Sometimes Mario's a Tanuki. Sometimes he's got a Superman cape. Sometimes you can rip things out of the ground and throw them at people. It's like they never stick with it either. So it's kind of impressive that we got such a status quo-y, like 10 years all of a sudden, where like the rules were set. You couldn't really do anything crazy. I mean, Odyssey broke the mold, but that was 3D, so we don't even count it. So this is the first time that, as an outsider, because even though I'm wearing a Mario Kart shirt,
you're not a 2D Mario
casual.
Guy.
No, I am definitely like a casual Mario enjoyer. But at the same time, this is probably the first time in about 10 to 15 years that I'm thinking, man, I would really like to go back and keep playing this 2D Mario game, because I have on the Switch the Wii U version.
That new Super
I
Mario Bros.
don't even want to go back to it.
Yeah,
because so that just kind of gives you the idea of where I'm at. But yeah, what are you feeling? Because you even got a lot higher than I did.
Yeah, because I beat it. Like, I finished it last Saturday. I reviewed it. I gave it like a 9.5 in my website. And this game is literally, I am the critic of Ratatouille. I've been a harsh critic of what 2D Mario has been for close to a decade, ever since the new Super Mario Bros. Line started with the Nintendo DS, that then was followed up on the Wii, then on the Nintendo 3DS, and the Wii U version that got ported to the Switch, the one that you have. 2D Mario, when they did the 2D with 3D, got really stale. It had a lack of creativity. after you expected so much creativity in Mario, especially in the early 2D games, that it felt like the creativity was put in the 3D games. So kind of like you mentioned, it's like that's where you saw Nintendo experimenting more, like from Sunshine with the flood pack galaxy and with its like wide assortment of like gravity defying levels, Odyssey with the weirdness of the cappy hat and like the creativity of some of the levels there. 2D Mario had gotten so behind the it falls so behind the pack of how great those games used to be, that Wonder really felt like I was playing a sequel to Super Mario World. My favorite game ever. If you look at my list, that whenever everyone was posting their 25 favorite games ever, either in order or in non-order, like I did mine in order, and Mario World is my favorite game ever. And I haven't had that feeling of like just a grin in my face at just the sheer nutsy creativity you see in so many levels. It's like there's just a joy. It's like what I like the most about this game is that it feels like Nintendo remembered that what is the feeling that that's synonymous with their brand? Joy. Like what made the Mario movie so damn good this year? Joy. Even something as like having them a nihilistic star. That was that it's still one of my favorite.
That was part of the fun of it because of how like off the wall and like unconnected it was to the rest of the vibe of that movie. I think that's why it hit so much, because it was such a hopeful and lovely movie.
Yeah, and what's funny is that some of that irreverence even seeps into Mario Wonder with the flowers. I really love those flowers that have dialogue that can give you some hints and interact with you so well. It's like it's just such a joyful. I tell you, the second level, as soon as the piranha started singing, and I showed that to my mom and dad, that's when I knew that game was, because they were smitten by seeing that, like absolutely smitten. And that's when I knew it's like there's there's like a really joyful quality to Mario that I haven't felt in the 2D games in like forever. Like I remember when I showed Galaxy Odyssey to my mom last year when she had COVID and she was recovering in our living room. She asked me if I had games that I could show her, and I showed her Odyssey, and just the smile I saw on her face with Mariachi Mario, and that was the moment where it really hit me about the charm that Mario still has. And I feel Wonder takes that feeling of the mariachi moment I got with Odyssey with my mom and just like expanded it into full games. Like every level is like the real carrot at the end of the stick. It's trying to find those wonder seeds, because it's rare for every level like back to back to feel the same. Like perspective changes, the way Mario changes, like the psychedelic nature of the art style changes, and the structural change of what happens in the level is like, it's just endless creativity that makes this game like one that you want to just keep pushing through. Because I had fallen into a rut with the 2D Mario games in the new line, that after a couple levels I wanted to play something else because they felt more stale. They played well because Mario at its core, it's always a solid platformer, but it's like I would rather play something like Rayman Legends that had way more creativity than like what 2D Mario had become. That they became so reliant on the same biomes, the same desert look, the same water look, the same. Like, it just felt like you knew what you were getting in the levels. And I feel Mario Wonder, even though it touches on styles from other games, like the way the pastel colors like embellishes that game, everything feels so fresh. It feels like this is not what a 2D Mario has looked like for almost a decade. And it's and the controls is like, this is like the best Mario has controlled in 2D. It's like it feels so damn tight that there was a certain weightiness that the new Super Mario games had that is not here. And all mixed with like the art style that they push. I feel, to me, Paul, this is the prettiest game on the Switch. Is that there is just something that, for as aging as that hardware is, like Nintendo found like a perfect art style. It's so smooth. It controls so well. Music, the top of the line Koji Kondo style of music that they have, it's just, to me, it's like this is premium. This to me is premium Nintendo for me in a way that when I really thought about it, like even though like I gave Zelda its flowers this year because of what it did for game design, because that game gave me kind of like the childlike wonder of, man, I can't believe like games can push and be this or be able to do this, kind of like when it comes to like designing and the thing working. But I feel this is definitely childlike wonder of what I used to feel back then. it's funny having both spectrums. And in my case, I like this one. Like I like the feelings this game made me have, and knowing that I can go back to it anytime is like such an easy pick up and play game that I definitely like. I'm hoping here to hear the sales figures for this one. I can imagine are going to be huge with the Mario movie being so big, and this is basically like a 6 month later companion to that movie. But I really want, I really hope this is where we keep building from, like I said, from 2D, and that Nintendo realizes that they really got to get kooky and creative, because it's like when creativity shines, it's like, man, it's like their games are just special. I absolutely adored Mario Wonder. It's like, even though I knew I was gonna like it because I'm a big sucker for 2D Mario, even though I like 3D Mario too, it's like this sucker. I was like, I couldn't believe that in 2 days I was done because I couldn't stop playing. We had Spider-Man, and my plan was gonna be, I'm gonna be playing Spider-Man. As soon as I start feeling like I'm losing steam, I'm gonna switch to Mario. It flipped. Like it flipped. That's how much I was enjoying Mario and playing it, showing it to my, like I played in that living room with my mom next to me. She was like looking at me playing. Like that was such a wholesome experience. And I didn't play co-op, but you got to play co-op with your wife briefly. As you told me, it's like, and that was like an interesting, fun experience. fun experience.
I'm really glad for the quality of life for that. Elizabeth doesn't listen to any of these, so bless her. But she is not the most coordinated individual when it comes to playing video games. She has a lot of nausea that hits her at any sort of camera movement. So 2D,
even 2D, like even as straight as just a 2D camera moving.
2D she can handle 2D is what was like the only exception, really. Any 3D really at all. I remember our Resident Evil 8 playthrough, I had to put the sensitivity to the absolute lowest, and even that she would have to look away when I'd turn. It's just it's something with the way that her eyes work just really messes her up. Even going in a straight line in Spider-Man, of watching Peter go up and down the screen was too much for her. So Pokemon and Animal Crossing are usually her only jumps, but she used to play like Donkey Kong Country, Mario Kart, and Mario games in general with me. So this was nice to actually, we sat down together, we got to play that, and the fact that she could play as Yoshi, a bright light blue Yoshi for her, and didn't have to worry about constantly dying. The only times she would is if you like fall into a crevice or get crushed by something, which instantly kills you. But even then, the quick like 5-second zip back to me, respawn, keep plugging along, and if we had any real issues, she would kind of get into a flow and she'd just start plugging away. She'd beat me a couple of times. So it was just a lot of fun, like going through 3 of the worlds together like that, and then having like optional high challenge stuff is a really good balancing both worlds for Mario fans, because you have a lot of those 5-year-old kids who are getting this as one of their first games ever, and you don't want to blow them out with difficulty.
Man, I'm so jealous of like the kids that this is their first Mario game. What a special like introduction to 2D Mario for them if they're not able to see something like, because I feel the original Mario Brothers, the NES one, like funny enough, like I recently beat it again, like with my dad, because he had a weird nostalgia. He was like, I kind of want to play some NES, because he had a bootleg NES that was sold to him like in the Facebook Marketplace that had like ROMs and all that. And I was like, I don't know where it is in our graveyard of electronics that is in my closet, but I was like, the game is in the Switch Online, and I got to see it, and it's like, I always respect that first Mario game, because it's like, without that first Mario game, we wouldn't have gaming, because that game was what revived gaming as a medium after Atari buried it, after ET destroyed like created a game crash. And I always respected kind of like as that like progenitor, but I don't think it's as good as what came later, like the Mario 3 or Mario World, my favorite. That I feel like Mario World is still such a great game to show a kid, but in the case that they don't like jump through the hoops of buying Switch Online for the SNES games to play that, this is such a perfect introduction for those kids, and that makes me so happy that they have this instead of New Super Mario Bros. Because I feel like New Super Mario Bros., that being the first introduction to it, with how relatively bland it is in comparison to this, would be a really not great impression. Let's just say. I feel Wonder makes a more wondrous first impression. And that's even not even knowing some very clever stuff. Like, do you get to see the online mode of this game? Of like the Dark
Um,
Souls style
I saw how it works, where like they have those little kiosks,
uh
and you can kind of connect online. But I didn't really mess with it because I honestly don't really trust it.
yeah. I would say try it because it's like it's so it the Switch has horrible online. This game works perfectly online. Like, because like what you see is that you see silhouettes, like ghost figures of other players in your levels. And some of those and the silhouettes work so well in like some of the challenge levels where you're like, you have to find 5 coins like hidden somewhere. And sometimes you can enable that online and you'll see what other players are doing and they help you and you help them back. It is non-intrusive, like they can be doing whatever they're doing in their own version of the level. As you're playing that, it's just you feel like you have a communal experience going through these levels in a way that's not griefing, but it's more helpful. They can still revive you, they can cheer you on sometimes. There's like some really tough levels that are kind of like bonus levels that I was only able to beat it thanks to thanks to the online mode, because like it's the level that you have to do platforming to the beat of a song that the beat keeps like deleting some squares as you keep going, and I was too slow and became a ghost, but someone was ahead of me, so I just pursued him as a ghost, and he revived me all the way to like the end of the
I
level.
played a little bit of that, and for whatever reason, my controller was like having some delay issues, and it was
Huh?
making me so frustrated. So I had to move on from that because also Elizabeth was with me. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
all right, we're gonna only attempt this a couple of times because I immediately recognized it.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, it was like, okay, if
Yeah.
I need to like really focus myself
Because
on
the one that you
this.
have to do the wall jumps and like
Yeah.
and like to the beat, it's like that's one of the toughest levels. You see online that a lot of people are like, I've aged with this level because it's like it's a really tight, really difficult optional level. So
Mhm.
I still have a bunch of those that I didn't even beat, but the online functionality really works. I tell you, definitely enable it when you play it because it's it's like it works. Because my fear was like, gosh, is this gonna be laggy? Like if I enable this, because that's always my fear, especially because Super Mario Maker 2 online didn't work for me. Like that was like I love that game. There was so much that I loved about that game, but its multiplayer was like a complete bust for me, like an absolute bust because of the spotty online. And this is completely different from that. So it's like
Yeah.
that was like such a it was like interesting idea. Like, you know how in Dark Souls you see like the silhouette ghosts of players around the same
Mhm.
areas as you are? It's very similar to that. And they
Hmm.
made it work in Mario. That's like so cool. It's like it is to the point that I'm like, this is one of the most fun multiplayer experiences I've had this year. Because like I
Dang,
never
I might
expected that
actually try that.
because I never expected something as singular as I seen the silhouettes of other players that are playing my same levels to make the game feel more wholesome. It makes it easier because by having those players in, you automatically become the ghost that can help you like with giving you extra chances and all that. Is again that it works so well. It's like hats off Nintendo. It's like the only thing that I don't quite like about Wonder is that you see how many characters there are, right? It's like they have like a huge roster of different characters that you can play as. They did this thing where back in the day there used to be like different differences by playing with the different characters. So like Luigi would have like a longer jump where he would be like moving his feet. Toad would be able to pick stuff much quicker. And in the games that they let you play as Peach, she would float like briefly. Especially
Yeah.
if you play Super Mario Bros. 2, they took that out for this game because I know that at least for multiplayer purposes, before it was like, man, I wanted the character that could float. I didn't want like this character that has this weird jump. So it was like there was always that kind of like that problem, and now all the characters feel more even. But by
Yeah.
doing that, but by doing that, it means that the only reason why you would play as a different character is just a swap. It's just basically a skin swap. And to mitigate that a little bit, they added something called the badge system, which gives you some special abilities.
It's almost
And
like transmog on
yes,
skills.
yes, and it you know what it reminds me slightly? It's like Armor Core Mario in a way. Like you can pick specific upgrades because there'll be some levels that a specific upgrade could help you, like find some secrets, like a longer jump, or later on you get like a grappling hook that's like straight up, like
Wow.
it's like a piranha plant grappling hook. It's like
Hmm.
and all the characters can be decked on that. So it's like what would have been intrinsically tied to one character can be in everything thanks to this badge system. But I wish there was like more of an incentive to be able to pick more of those characters because there's way more characters to pick up. And I like the idea of Yoshi as a accessibility option part of me also wishes there was also a Yoshi that you can like jump in and use him like to eat characters and all that, because you could do that in the new Super Mario Bros. Game from the Wii U. They added Yoshi in. So
Yeah.
even though there's a fun co-op thing that you can do, that you can have a character play as Yoshi and someone jumps on you. And so that just became kind of like a multiplayer thing. And this is kind of something that I felt more later on. Like, I don't know if you noticed that you need a bunch of wonder seeds to keep unlocking the levels. It feels like you need 14 seeds for this and all that. It's like, to me, just on level completion alone, I didn't feel like I was in need of so many of those seeds.
Yeah,
later
I never really had an issue, but
in World 6 though, which is the fire level, that is the one world where it felt like you needed to 100% get all the seeds from every level and everything in there. And because you're already late in the game, it feels very it feels like we're pumping the brakes a little bit, because it feels like I'm being required to get all the seeds right now. So that I only felt it there, but I felt the pacing as how you were unlocking levels was really, like, it worked really well, like, all things considered. But that was just kind of like a tiny nitpick. But yeah, it's like, needless to say, excellent game. I adored my time with Mario Wonder. I did not expect this year that on top of getting Zelda, we were gonna get this, and it's just good as it is. On top of me also getting Metroid, like my Switch, like especially after last year, I barely used my Switch. I really got some good use of the Switch this year. So like, what a great year you had, Nintendo. So, and then obviously we play Spider-Man 2. Like, we're gonna save all our thoughts for that one. But very briefly, I'm gonna say that I did review this game also for Critical Quarter. You can go check my review. Paul, do you want to save your thoughts, or you want to say something right now, because we can keep
it's going to be an interesting discussion, that's for sure. And you'll just have to watch the other video for the rest of it.
Yep, absolutely. And as we wait for the other big game for this week, for later today, you started playing Alan Wake Remastered.
I did. That was a weird expectation. It brought back the I realized some of my favorite gaming. Yes, well, I'm going to get to the specifics, but it brought back like that weird thing where when you just go through what's on sale or something, you buy something that looks kind of cool, and then you're all of a sudden surprised by it. I think that was me for Control, because I don't think I was going to buy it at release. I can't remember what was actually going down.
You bought Control because I told you about the Ashtray Maze, because you had already joined us.
That's right.
And I was reviewing Control for us when we had the Statics Media website, and we were doing more reviews. I was doing that review for that game, and then I said something like, man, that Ashtray Maze sequence, you gotta see it. And I sent you some tweets of people being like, that's like one of the best moments of the year, because you're not planning on buying that game. And that's why I basically like coerced you to like be like, nah, you gotta see this. So
yeah, I remember now, and that's probably one reason why the first playthrough I wasn't sure if I was enjoying it as much, because I kept waiting for that moment instead of just sitting with the game by itself. But replaying it, of course, I was like super blown away. Anyway,
and also real quick, that's when I learned about your directionally challenged like self.
That's right, because I hated that map. I still do hate it, but at least I kind of remember how it works now. You know, like you go back to something that's complex, but like Yakuza fans, honestly, it might not make any sense, but if you keep going back to it, eventually you just kind of remember where things are.
Yeah, like in real life.
Let me get back on track, or I'll never get there. So yeah, some of my favorite gaming is just going through and buying a random game that's super deep on sale and then just playing it. And Alan Wake, surprisingly enough, kind of hit something like that finally, after like thinking about playing it for years and years and years. Never touched it, never beaten it. And just going through the game, I realized all of a sudden why everybody loves it so much, why it's such a cult classic. And
it's
like
some
people really love the schlocky side of it, but yeah, the vibe, it's like that Twin Peaks meets Twilight Zone, and I can absolutely see where they got it for Control. Like the weird spinny floaty objects that come to kill you and stuff, the light-based mechanics, the way the physics of the engine are solid. You can knock over everything in that game, and it plays like the way they would talk about it in Metal Gear Solid, where it's like, whoa, I didn't expect this random ice box to fall over and ice to fall out and melt and all that stuff. It's like that kind of vibe to it. So when I was running through and just playing this game on my sleeve, essentially, like I had it on easy mode.
Mhm.
But even on easy, it's like you're playing it fast and loose. So even though you have a lot of weaponry, you still die in like 3 hits.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of craziness going on, and it's just spooky enough to be like, oh shoot, this is kind of creepy, but also
Mhm.
not like we're gonna throw you people getting ripped in half all the time. It's
Uh,
more about like the what could it be kind of thing. And I think I started off with the video commentary on in the background, which is a
mhm.
really cool feature. You have one that's them talking about the original release of the game, and there's a specific track that while you play through it prompts like hey, I'm this person, I was the game director on this part, and let me talk about this area of the game development here. And if I had played through this game previously and was going back to it, I would absolutely sit there listening to them talk about various aspects of the game. So that was just really cool that they put
That's
that
just
kind of effort
Remedy.
into it.
Remedy has that filmic quality to their games that they
Yeah.
love, like the idea of like the DVD commentary that we no longer get because of we're in the streaming era.
Yep.
Like they're so up their own ass in that element, but
For
it
good and for
works.
bad.
Yeah, but it works because like that's what like defines a Remedy game. Even the live action bits that you
Yeah.
saw back in Quantum Break, and also the live action bits of Control, is like they have it's like that's kind of like their trademark, and it's so cool that that still like holds so true in so many of their games, and
Mhm.
makes me curious for the sequel. Yeah,
I
I
know.
yeah, and you played more than I did because I was like I was doing a bunch of stuff yesterday. I was polishing up my Spider-Man 2 review because I went through like a big crisis of conscience with that with that one for a little bit with what I had written. So I'm just teasing people. But I say yeah, but when I heard that you were playing it and the amazing clip, if you're looking at that, you go check this out on Twitter, people, and at Dark of Art on Twitter. Like he was looking at the moon and then there was like this big tractor like rolling
I
behind me.
happened to turn just in time for a like floating tractor piece to come
Yeah.
zipping at me in just enough time to duck out
To
of
do
the
the dodge.
way.
And
Oh
not
my
a
gosh,
glitch.
the
And that was so
perfect.
funny.
No,
Not a
that
glitch.
was
That was
like
part of the game.
that's like one of the enemy
Yeah.
types that you get jumped with in that game. So it was just like one of those moments like I post whenever I have like one moment of competence in the Last of Us game and I
Uh,
spin and headshot somebody.
yeah.
It was kind of like that more so than any glitches, but it
Yeah.
was just so perfect. And I had so many of those during my time
Mhm.
because it specifically like slows time
Mhm.
when you do certain dodges, when you get like certain enemies come up behind you, it'll like zoom out to show the
Mhm.
enemy about to swing down on you to give you this like quick
Parry
time,
window. Mhm.
yeah, parry window of dodge
Mhm.
essentially. And it's kind of really cool that like not enough games really jumped on that, and
Mhm.
how like minimalist the HUD is. Like you still don't get stuff that today. It's all like super gaudy and in your face, but I feel like we're only finally starting to get back into that. I like for that age, let's see, like Dead Space would have been a good example. Your
Mhm.
Resident Evils, of course.
Yeah.
And as that another big inspiration that they talked about, it's like a creepier Resident Evil 4
Uh-huh.
essentially. And like I'm already thinking back on my time with Dead Space playing it back,
Mhm.
and now I'm like, man, I should maybe rate Dead Space a little higher than I did, but
Uh-huh.
I don't even know anymore because there's so many of these good releases. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit disorganized, but my thoughts on Alan Wake Remastered, mostly gameplay related, is actually
Mhm.
really great, really fun. The story is a bit of a nothing burger in a lot of ways. Like they kind of had to force some like, oh, your wife who looks vaguely like Angelina Jolie, including the cheek enhancements, gets like kidnapped, quote
Uh-huh.
unquote, and you got to go find her. It's like you can't just have a regular
Yeah.
guy having an existential crisis by himself.
Yeah, the thing is that
But yeah,
the narrative for Alan Wake is one of the things that are most praised about it, and I don't know how much that is seeing in its entirety, other than just like the early parts where you're at. Now the big question, Paul, are you gonna finish Remastered or are you gonna jump straight to two? Because Alan Wake
I
two is supposed
might.
to be different, like a different game.
Yes.
So that's
I did
why.
hear that it's not actually as close to the first one mechanically, so I'm not
Uh,
afraid of that. I already know what's supposed to happen to Alan himself.
mhm.
Um, where it really was like, all right, you're not going to lose yourself by knowing the ending to the first game, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Which I guess spoilers for Alan Wake Remastered, but
It's been
like,
13 years, and the
yeah,
remaster came out 2 years back.
he goes into that like darkness world and he's trapped there, but for the sake of using his writing abilities, he writes all of the other characters
Hmm.
that you meet in the game out of the story, so they're all safe, but he's
Uh-huh.
trapped there. And that's like kind of it. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay,
It's
I
like
kind of expected
it's
that,
an analog about like what it means to be like a writer and a world builder. It's like
and I
it's
kind of love that
uh,
actually.
mhm.
He's just dramatic enough for me to be like, oh, this was exactly me in my early college years. That kind of hits a little close to home,
Mhm.
actually. So yeah, I really do enjoy that side of it, even though I was kind of bad mouthing it earlier.
Mhm.
But the side of it that your original question was like, oh, so I do not believe I'm going to finish it before the release because I'm probably going to already have my day taken up, the rest of my evening taken
Uh-huh.
up playing something else. Otherwise, I would. But at this point, I might go back to it if
Yeah, you
I
think
don't
about
know,
it.
like
Yeah, think about it
someday.
like think about it like this, Paul. After Alan Wake 2, what else have you got to play? Wouldn't you want to like
Yeah.
stretch that out a little bit more? It's
Yeah. So, and now that it's not like I have to fear, like for Spider-Man, you knew
mhm.
that all of the really insufferable people were going to start
We're gonna
posting all of the spoilers. And sure enough, like the
happen
day
today.
after I
Yeah,
finished,
yeah.
all of like the big spoilers, like, oh, what do you think about this super spoilery thing? And like, dude,
Oh,
if I hadn't finished the game,
my TikTok FYP page is littered with that, especially people
oh my
breaking specific
gosh.
moments of that game that can seem very spoilery just by them showing that. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
so thankful I got, and part of me is like, I hate that I finished it because I was like, kind of wish I had savored it a little bit more because it's like I was not expecting to be done with it, like done like we are now. Like we've done everything within that game already, and so part of me is kind of sad. But we also did it to, especially because I had two things spoiled, and technically only one of them was a real spoiler,
Yeah, the
but
other one
the
wasn't
other one, yeah, it
actually.
wasn't actually. That was
I
like a
wanted to tell
misconstrued.
you so
Yeah,
badly that I was like, nope, it's like, don't worry about it. But I also wanted you to sit back and feel that surprise that I had
yeah,
on my face
yeah.
because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't playing out like I thought it would.
Yeah, no, that's a good feeling. And the thing is that the one thing that ended up being a spoiler, it was like it was still awesome seeing how it played out
Yeah.
because I didn't know like what led to that, and the moment was also really great. So it was like, uh, thankfully, like the spoilers were not as destructive as I was fearing they would be when those spoilers started going out because of the freaking Xbox mother efforts that wanted to spoil it because there were apparently people were spoiling Starfield for them and they use it kind of like as a
Oh
revenge. But
gosh.
I'm like, you don't really. It's like, can you really spoil Starfield? But it's like it's different games, but different vibes. So it was like that's why I finished it because the same thing that happened with Ragnarok that we like blasted through because of my fear of there's gonna be someone who's gonna spoil me. So, but yeah, we're definitely gonna talk more about that. But yeah, it's like I am debating because the things I never really finished Alan Wake 1 either, and I'm reviewing the second one because we didn't get code for it. It's not like I'm in a rush to review it either because, like, for example, over at Season Gaming, I had asked because I was like, I did beat Spider-Man, I platinum it, I could review it if you want, and then I was like, no, leave it to Eric, the guy that's reviewing it. It's like we're in no rush, so I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's like I'm in no rush. Then I can still review it. So yeah, so yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, because we were now in that point, Paul. It's like kind of like I mentioned at the top of the episode. It's like, what else do we got for the rest of this year? For me, like Modern Warfare 3, because I am reviewing that. And that's early in November. Then, like, for the rest of November, is like for of what I really want is like I had got nothing else until
Yeah.
Avatar in December. And we don't know like how good Avatar is gonna be either.
Mhm.
So and it feels like, but I feel like Avatar being there at a point of heavy famish, that will feel like, yeah, at least something, which is kind of like what I was expecting that to be. And
Mhm.
I still technically have Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty as like my things to like fall back to for November. But
I
like
can't
you're,
wait to hear your like
yeah,
honest thoughts on that as you start going through it because you're gonna be having like because for anybody listening, he never actually finished Cyberpunk 2077 back in
Ever.
2020. So
Yeah.
this is all gonna be
New.
like fresh for this man,
Yeah.
and like I've now come to terms with it being one of my top 10 games, probably of all time. So
Mhm.
I am waiting with bated breath,
Yeah.
also terrified that he's
Of what
not going to enjoy it.
Yeah. But that's the thing,
I'm
like,
pretty sure it's going to be at least mostly solid for you, though.
imagine if it's another Armored Core 6 situation.
I would love it to be.
Yeah. So it's like, and I feel like the best thing about playing Armored Core 6 when I did was like, I felt at ease because the conversation had already moved on from that, and I feel like I was playing it at my pace. I feel I'm gonna feel the same way about Cyberpunk, like because of this damn year that we're in, is that the conversation just keeps moving so quickly from so many games. Like I'm finding value being able to play it like on my own time and not feeling like I'm in the fear that I'm gonna be spoiled or anything because the conversation has just so moved on. Right now, everyone is still fighting about like Spider-Man's merits and all that. And I'm like, peace. I'm the dude. I was like, peace. I was like, I'm done. Like I finished that game. I reviewed it. I said my piece. We're gonna talk about it in that other episode. But it's like I feel more. So I feel like I'm entering a chill state right now with the games that I'm gonna be playing. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna blast through Alan Wake Remastered. Just to kind of like at least just for completion's sake. And it's not that long either. So, but I'm definitely gonna.
I've got to be close as well. I'm like on episode 5 or something.
Yeah, I don't remember. Let me see. How many episodes are in Alan Wake? It's 6 episodes. So you're close. You might as well. Yeah, you might as well.
If I can, after I finish playing with my guys or before I start playing with my guys, I'm gonna keep playing it as much as I can. And if I hit it before I have to go to bed, we'll see.
Yeah. So staying in the Alan Wake train, Paul, press X.
For some news.
Story number 1, Alan Wake 2 review roundup. So the review roundup for Remedy's highly anticipated sequel 13 years in the making lifted today. Averaging an 88 Metacritic on the PS5 version, it has a 92 on PC, and an 89 on OpenCritic that collects all reviews regardless of platforms. Alan Wake 2 joins an increasingly long list of really well-received games in 2023 that are like in the high 80s that in any other year would be shoo-ins for Game of the Year contention. So here are some brief excerpts. BGC gives it a 5 out of 5, equivalent to 10 out of 10. And reviewer Jordan Miller says, massively confident, often groundbreaking, and full of surprises, Alan Wake 2 is a Remedy at its best. The shooting isn't stellar, but Alan Wake 2 is otherwise a horror thriller that shouldn't be missed. GameSpot gave it a 10 out of 10, with reviewer Mark Delaney saying, the mere existence of an Alan Wake 2 would have, at different points over the years, felt like a minor miracle, but for it to be this one that feels singular in its achievements and coming from a studio that refuses to shy away from the paths less traveled makes Alan Wake 2 a miracle illuminated. And IGN's Tristan O'Cliffe gives it a 9 out of 10 and says Alan Wake 2 is a superb survival horror sequel that makes the cult classic original seem like little more than a rough first draft by comparison. Obviously, there were even more reviews about it. We're trying to keep it tight, but another contender. Yeah, it's
impressive. Honestly, I cannot believe that I am finally like, okay, well, Spider-Man was like, it was okay. Yeah, it was good. I guess that's going to be the end for me, and we'll see what else comes out.
For
and
the rest,
then Alan Wake 2 shows up and it goes 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And it is terrifying because I'm over here thinking, oh, okay, I can finally like lower my guard for the really good games of 2023. And this is definitely not one that I would have expected, though I should have, based on the fact that they've been just doing progressively better with their like creepy plus shooting mechanics over the course of like 10 years now, 13 apparently. So I'm excited to play Alan Wake 2 now. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's like to me it's just absolutely insane. To me, like this also launching like this, like with this kind of reception, it's like, god damn it, this year is like how spoiled we are. Like just absolutely spoiled. And with so many of like the reviewers even like putting it like saying that this game should be like in that when we reach the Game Awards, that is like collectively a lot of people send in their 6 different games that they would think would be the big nominees, that they're feeling very strongly about this one. It's like, man, it's like I'm about to live in the reality that Final Fantasy 16 may not be in that top 6, and that breaks my heart. But it's also symbolic of the kind of year this has been, and also to think about that is like just how many games also collectively have averaged in the 90s and above, which has been insane. Like we usually get at least 1 or 2 of those like a year. Imagine how many there have been on top of the tons of games that are like in that high 80 range. The high 80 range, by the way, that so many Xbox people were trying to say was bad when a lot of PlayStation games were scoring that. And that Starfield isn't that an 83. How does that feel, huh? It's like, it's so funny to think that. It's like, just what a embarrassment of riches, and I can't wait to see it. Like I can't wait to play it. It's like some of the clips that I was watching, I was like, that game is stunning, Paul. Like you should see it. That your wife's out of town.
I've been going through all of the I've been going through the gameplay videos, the screenshots of like light through a water bottle, like the ridiculous stuff. That is like the detail that I always start looking for, like the dumb detail that makes something look really nice.
Yeah.
And that's going up on the big screen 100%.
Oh yes. Yeah. So can't wait to try it more. So like staying in the Alan Wake like train, Paul. Story number 2. By Game Informer's Wesley LeBlanc, Alan Wake 2 New Game Plus with alternative narrative and nightmare difficulty announced. Alan Wake 2 finally hits PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC tomorrow on Friday, October 27. After the wait was extended by a 10-day delay, the game's release is almost here. After getting a new launch trailer yesterday, there was like a big showcase for Xbox that didn't really have much. It was just like a bunch of trailers, even though the Metal Gear trailer there was really hot. That showed more of this spooky world. Developer Remedy Entertainment has another pre-launch update to share. New Game Plus will arrive sometime after the game's launch. These New Game Plus will allow players to retain all unlocked weapons and upgrades. Plus, it will feature a new nightmare difficulty level and an alternative narrative that includes new manuscript pages and new video content. Remedy says it's due sometime after launch, but that the release timing of it is still to be decided. So, I'll say this, especially because I'm feeling this with Spider-Man. I'm like, I don't like this trend of New Game Plus like coming like sometime after, especially when it can sometimes take a while for New Game Plus to arrive. Look at Ragnarok. Like by the time I thought I was gonna be ready for that New Game Plus for Ragnarok, and even then, like by that point, I felt I had moved on. I was like, oh man, I thought I was gonna be more ready for this than I was expecting. So maybe it's like but I also feel like so many developers have caught wind of the fact that it seems that this strategy has worked for many people to kind of like get a second win, like a free second win for a game, because these are usually free, and like people go back to it, because I know that God of War 2018 was one of the first ones that did that. That game launched in April, then New Game Plus launched in August that year, and that helped keep the conversation. When it's this close, I'm like, oh man, it feels like blatant, especially because in the Spider-Man conversation, like I wish New Game Plus was already available, like especially because you can be done with that game so quickly.
Especially for a game, like because of how quick it is, because of how simple it is. It's so frustrating to sit back and not be able to go play the game that you love, because you literally have done everything that you can't do.
Yes,
the platinum's too easy almost.
Yeah, way too easy compared to the first game. Absolutely easy for that for Spider-Man, but it's like trying to keep the thoughts for that other episode. Yeah, but
somebody
it's like
once explained to me the reason why all these games are doing this New Game Plus thing is to artificially boost their player concurrent numbers.
It's kind of like
I hate that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I
like
hate it so much.
Yeah, and it makes me appreciate. Bring it back to Spider-Man. Like I'm saying, like.
Yep.
Miles Morales launched with New Game Plus immediately. That was part of, and that was like a requirement for a platinum trophy for that game. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, also from Insomniac, launched with New Game Plus. I don't know why that one didn't. So it's like, but we're gonna talk about that. But yeah, Alan Wake 2 apparently is gonna have that. We already know that what they're gonna be adding. At least hopefully it's not too long of a wait. It's kind of like they were mentioning. So
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. So yeah. Can't wait to play it. Definitely can't wait to play it. So now we're going to talk about Spider-Man, but not in a critical sense. Paul, story number 3. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game ever. Story by Marcus Stewart from Game Informer. Marvel Spider-Man 2 has only been available for 3 days of when this story was written on October 23rd, but the critically acclaimed sequel has already become the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game in the brand's history. In a press release, Sony Interactive Entertainment states that over 2.5 million copies of the game have been sold within the first 24 hours of launch. The publisher didn't provide a breakdown in terms of physical versus digital, but that's an impressive number for the PS5 exclusive. This feat continues the series' record-setting trend. 2018 Spider-Man also became the fastest-selling first-party PlayStation title at the time, for PS4 specifically, with 3.3 million sold within the first 3 days of launch. And later became the best-selling superhero game ever in the US, a record it still holds today. Time will tell if the sequel can supplant its predecessor, but it's off to a strong start regardless. So, 2.5 million copies in one day, that's a lot. Like for context, like for example, Final Fantasy 16 did 3 million in the first week. Like 3.3 million in 3 days, and this was 2.5 in one. This is definitely already kind of like going up there. And then God of War Ragnarok, they had mentioned something like, oh yeah, this was 5.1 million in a week. So it's interesting, like the different time frames of when and like when they use this, but I feel at least that paints more impressiveness to the numbers of Spider-Man. That was like especially if you like try to trend them, like keep the sales trend in the different time periods of other games from Sony portfolio. Like, of course this was gonna be huge. Like, have you seen the marketing budget of this game with the things that they've been doing? Like the
truck being held up by webbing, and was it in New York or it was somewhere?
Or Australia? I think it was, because I think it was in Sydney. Yeah, actually it was in Sydney, Australia. They did that. The big dome thing that's on Vegas. Xbox also did something similar, like recent, and I
think Xbox and did Nintendo do one, or has it just been PlayStation?
Yeah, just PlayStation and Xbox have been using that big dome that's in Vegas right now, which is the coolest thing. I've seen videos of people inside that dome and how it's like surrounds.
I've seen that as well. This is very impressive.
Like, so cool. I have family in Vegas. They have always been like, hey, one day, like, you can always come visit here. I'm like, now that I know about that dome, I have a reason to go to Vegas. Because otherwise, if I go to Vegas, it's to go bankrupt in those casinos. So yeah, congratulations to it. It's like, this is why Insomniac is their MVP. Yeah. Look, like, it's like, especially with the high review scores that it got also, on top of like the sales, it's like they hit that sweet spot, like the high critical acclaim and then the high sales. So and then moving to story number 4, also Spider-Man related. This is more interesting because this hits into some problems that you and I are gonna like expand our thoughts in the episode we're recording afterwards. New Marvel Spider-Man 2 update fixes incorrect flag and white cube model issues. Also story by Marcelo LeBlanc. So
can't believe
from Game Informer. Yeah. Marvel Spider-Man 2 hit PlayStation 5 exclusively last week, and it's already Sony's fastest selling first-party game. While we love the game here at Game Informer, once players got their hands in the game, some encountered a few bugs and issues, like one where their character model became a small white cube that looks like tofu. Plus, players discovered a Cuban flag was displayed inside and outside of the Morales household rather than the expected Puerto Rican flag. A new update for Marvel Spider-Man 2 out today fixes both of these issues and more. Version 1.001.003 is now live in-game, and it brings a few fixes to the game, including the aforementioned flag issue and the white cube issue. It also addresses an issue where the Amazing Spider-Man 2 spider logo appeared too bright in-game, and improves the game's stability. Developer Insomniac Games has also released a statement alongside the above patch notes, specifically addressing the flag issue. Today's patch corrects an error where the Cuban flag was incorrectly displayed instead of the Puerto Rican flag, it reads. We understand that accurate representation matters and greatly regret this error. We sincerely apologize and will do better in the future. Marvel Spider-Man 2 hit PlayStation 5 exclusively on October 20th. So, that flag thing, Paul, was... I posted it in my Instagram. The amount of people, Latino people that tagged me that were like incensed was like... it was like it was like a lot of people. There's like that was like embarrassing that you could like make that kind of mistake.
That is such like an American thing.
Yeah,
for some executive was like, just throw it in there. I don't care. Like, I can picture it. the underpaid intern that's like, boss, we don't have the data for the actual flag, and he's like, I don't care, nobody's gonna notice, just throw it in there.
Mhm.
I can't believe, like, I even found it myself after finding all of
Uh-huh.
that out. When you go back to Michael's plate, Michael, what am I saying?
Yeah.
Miles.
Miles.
Miles's place, it's covered in the wrong flag.
Uh,
And sure enough, because I was like, it can't be real. It
yeah.
can't be. Who
And it
would make
was.
such a big blunder like that? And
And,
yeah, sure
here's
enough, it was
here's the
real.
worst part, Paul. Is like they did Spider-Man Miles Morales in 2020. A lot of that same apartment is lifted from that game.
Yep.
That flag was correct there. What happened here? So,
Oh yeah.
and the thing is that I don't think this is the most outrageous thing in the world, but I think it's also a big example that when you really push so hard into representation and all that, and some people take issue on the fact of pushing representation. I know that Spider-Man 2 pushes that really heavily, especially on the Miles side with some of the side content and all that, with like the BIPOC artists and all of that, which I feel that is fairly on the nose, but done relatively well. That it doesn't really bother me in the first place. But it's like, if you're gonna be like pushing representation and authenticity a lot, you gotta like sidestep this kind of face plants, because it's like this kind of mistakes makes it seem more pandery than it actually is, if you know, because it's like you're trying to pander like representation, but you're doing it wrong, and in the end, that's the thing. Like Puerto Rico, that like Latinos are loud people. I tell you, like when someone like misrepresents their culture, they're gonna like say some words. And just thinking, like, for example, I'm moving to some controversial stuff. Is like, you probably have heard how much Latinos hate the term Latinx, right?
Yeah.
Especially like for the Latino culture, is such
crazy.
a so it's like this kind of touches on that. It's like, you better like get a Latino culture right, because it's like you're gonna hear
realize that the right, I don't know if it's the writing crew or what, is it can't be as representative as they're trying to come across as, because something between that and how a lot of the Black community, I've heard, has been talking a lot about Miles's final outfit. I don't know, have you heard any about that?
I saw a little bit, but I was like, I don't kind of want to like dive into too much controversy with this. But,
anyway, there's just a lot that's going on in that whole side of things right now.
Yeah, but it's like, hey, at least they did it quickly. That especially when it was like it took like a day or two for them to fix that. But it's still like, yeah, if you're gonna push representation, just like make sure you let everything. It's like, because I do feel they do representation well. That's the thing I love the most about Miles Morales in 2020. It was like, that's what shocked me. I was like, man, this is representation done right. This feels so cool that they took so many little details and got them so right, that it's crazy that then the big sequel missed on those details. And I'm like, it's an easy way to say like two different teams worked on this game, but that's kind of exactly how it happened, because that's how we got these games basically so quickly. But it's like, yeah, that was a little bit of stepping on the rake. And then the bugs thing, I kind of wanted to save this more for like our conversation, but this, Paul, like Spider-Man 2 is the most unstable Sony first party game I played in years. Like
100%.
And especially like for you with 2018, like I told you a little bit of some of the issues that I was seeing with the Spider-Man Remastered, that I was like, apparently that was always there, but you have a memory of the 2018 game, of this pristine, like spotless game.
100%. There was like maybe a person went through a wall every once in a while, or the ragdoll physics didn't 100% line up, but it's like that
the
was
Batman
so
games had that. Yeah. The Batman games also have that. So,
but like almost entirely the rest of it, with like very few games did I feel as like this is just a perfect complete game, as I did with 2018. And I know that's like some people didn't really view it as much, and it still has its issues with, as far as like the pacing issues, some of the other stuff, but like I don't know, something about the way that like the villains were rolled out, the surprises, the takes that push Peter Parker forward as a character in the Marvel
And the
universe.
fact you've never seen a Spider-Man game done like that in 2018. It has that kind of it had that kind of blanket on top of that, of all of that. Is like, even though the issues were there back then, because I did a review of 2018. It was actually one of the first reviews I did for the Critical Corner website. And I went to read it. I was very high on that, specifically because it nailed so much about Spider-Man. I saw the issues on the replay that I did recent, like removed so far along, with 5 years removed from that game with the sequel coming out, and having played Miles Morales, that improved on so many of those little details. It was like a really great game that had room to grow. But if there was one thing, it was like it was not unstable. Marvel, like what we played with Marvel Spider-Man 2 was like shockingly unstable. That surprised me, because Miles Morales wasn't like that. And I had heard some wonkiness of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, but it wasn't like what we got. That I kept screenshotting. It was so funny. I was playing that stupid crime where the two cars clip like they were like dogs in the middle of intercourse, when they're like stuck together after they do the doggy, and it would look like that. I was like dying hysterical, and then Sebastian said something like, "This is premium gaming," and I immediately had to screenshot it. It's like, yeah, premium gaming. So, and sure enough, and then like and I show you my Miles Morales picture. By the way, people, if you go watch my if you go read my review, I put those screenshots there. I'm not kidding. It's like that happened to me. I was like, I need to screenshot this, because it's like glitchy in a way that surprised me for a game that's like so high quality. It has such high quality around it, but I don't want to say more. So I'm glad the patch that apparently is going to fix stability is going to be there. Now the big question is like, is this stability just crashing, or is the jankiness that would prop up will still be there? I would have to play it. So at least that patch is there, because I did mention it in my review that I put it yesterday. It was like, if you wanted to play this game right now, if you had it physically, don't install the patch, because this is the weird thing, Paul. Like, ACG confirmed this, and I saw the Digital Foundry guys confirm this. The game that they reviewed, hey, is that? Yes,
this is Raspberry.
Spider Cat. Yeah, hey, Raspberry. I haven't seen in a while. Where's the other one?
He's been screaming at me from off screen.
Okay. Oh, Raspberry. Yeah, like a yeah.
Raspberry shows up whenever it's time to eat, and he just kind of sits here. He doesn't make any noise, but he makes his presence known.
Hit him.
Anyway.
So this was confirmed with the Digital Foundry guys and even ACG. This game was more stable in the review environment with patch 0, or like whatever was there, like in the Gold Master. It's insane that a day one patch broke this game for many people, which, by the way, it's not happening to everyone. According to Sebastian, he's had a pristine experience. That was not us. Like, that definitely wasn't us. So
it's kind of like you're on the for the first time, you're on my side of the train tracks.
Yes.
Where you're like, your system must be broken or something. I think it's just certain systems have a hardwired slight coding difference. And for the first time, yours was on the same side as mine.
Yeah, it was so weird, because I was like, I was fearing that this was gonna be my turn of like, crap. Now this is the game where I get the Paul treatment, where like his game's breaking in weird ways. And I also made sure that this game was not installed in my external the SSD that I installed. I made sure that this was like in the base one for my PS5, and it was still like, man, it's like, I don't remember playing the other two games and worrying about this game like potentially breaking in weird stuff where you get soft locked. You got soft locked in the main story moment. I got soft locked in in one of the side activities that I was able to get out of there through fast traveling. If without that, I would have had to reset the game. It's like all these weird things, and I'm like, look, I appreciate that Insomniac has been able to give us so many games. It's like that's some hustle, and for those games to be like really great overall. Like, with this game is the first time that I went and I was like, are your games not coming too quick? Is this one, and like, especially with the New Game Plus situation that's gonna be patched in and all that, I'm like, did this game have to suffer the Sony being like, we have no first party games at all? We announced your game 2 years ago. It feels like yours has to come out. It makes me fear that, and it is unfortunate, because pound for pound, there's so many elements of Spider-Man 2 that I'm definitely gonna like try to elaborate more, and that could make this like my favorite game on the PS5. So many elements about it, and it's those issues that I'm like, I have to put an asterisk so much. So I can't wait to try the patch now. Like, I'm definitely gonna give it a whirl. Already, I saw it on my console already installed. I want to see if it feels more stable and things like that. And that cube one, it's so funny. I feel so bad for YouTuber Mr. Matty Plays. That happened to him at the end. I'm like, that would break my heart so much. That those climatic story moments, like where like would be ruined with like with a cube, with a white cube. That was just a problem if viewer kept playing the game more and more, which is like that's known as memory leaking. I'm like, how does that happen? And how did a patch did that? That will be like the biggest mystery of the year. But can't wait to talk more about this game, Paul, in the next one.
Yeah.
Before we start, yeah,
we've already gotten a little too far into it,
yes.
I think. But
sometimes it's hard, but yes, yeah. So you're nice teams, people, for you to hear. Like it's gonna be an interesting conversation with this game. Final story, Paul. This broke today, and this was interesting. I should have expected something like this would happen with something that recently completed, and I feel this feels like a nice end cap for us ever talking about this thing that happened. So, final story by Wesley LeBlanc at Game Informer: Microsoft reorganization includes a new president and studios leader. Hot of the heels of officially acquiring Activision Blizzard earlier this month for a colossal $69 billion, nice. Microsoft is reorganizing some of its top leadership in its gaming division. This news comes from a new report at The Verge, which writes that Microsoft head of studios and corporate vice president Matt Booty has been promoted to president of game content and studios, and that Microsoft corporate vice president Sarah Bond has been promoted to Xbox president. She will oversee all Xbox platform responsibilities. The Verge also reports that after 32 years, Chief Marketing Officer Chris Capocella is stepping down from Microsoft. In Booty's new position, he will lead an expanded organization inside Microsoft Gaming that now includes ZeniMax and Bethesda, according to the publication. In an internal memo obtained by The Verge, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer says ZeniMax will continue to operate as a limited integration entity led by Jamie Leder, president and CEO, reporting to Matt. Spencer's memo speaks more to this expanded organization inside Microsoft Gaming, noting that an organization that enables Xbox Game Studios and ZeniMax teams to collaborate effectively will ultimately empower those world-class studios to do their best work in growing our portfolio of games players love. Spencer also writes that Bond will lead a team meant to manage the platform of today and build a platform of tomorrow in an effort to bring together devices, player and creator experiences, platform engineering, strategy, business planning, data analytics, and business development. With Capocella stepping down, Microsoft Executive Vice President and Commercial Chief Marketing Officer Takeshi Numoto now holds the Chief Marketing Officer role at the company. Elsewhere in the report, The Verge writes that Microsoft Corporate Vice President and Consumer Chief Marketing Officer Yusuf Mehdi will now work as Microsoft Executive Vice President and Consumer Chief Marketing Officer. And finally, the publication reports that Microsoft is moving its consumer sales organization to Spencer's Microsoft Gaming team. It will be led by Amy Silverman. For more, be sure to read The Verge full report that is linked in the article. So, of course, they recently acquired this massive corporation and Activision, and they put like new more people in. Matt Booty, who was over Xbox first party, being moved now over to kind of like oversee the Bethesda thing. It's interesting because look at what happened at Bethesda this year, where they had Starfield. That was a big success. They actually, and I didn't put it in their news article, like apparently they made a lot of money on Starfield, not just on the Game Pass numbers, but with what we talked last week, with the massive success of that game, also with the sales on PC. The thing that happened with Redfall was unacceptable for them, and kind of like and what Phil Spencer had mentioned was that they kind of let Bethesda just do do their own thing, and
they didn't hold them to task the way they should have.
Exactly, they were a little too lax, and they really paid the price, because that was a low point for Xbox in Xbox history, like a game releasing as bad as Redfall did in May. The patch that recently came out has made the game okay, like at least it's functional, but it was like this is definitely them answering to like, even though we keep saying that Bethesda, like when people think of Bethesda, they still think of Bethesda. They don't think as Xbox, if you know what I mean. It's like it's interesting because of that limited integration they mentioned. So I think they still want to keep that, because I think they know that the Bethesda name still has power on itself, because Bethesda was a publisher. But putting now Matt Booty is kind of this president of game content at studios. Now at least they're integrating everything a little bit more. So that should at least, like, what happened to Redfall should never happen again, at the very least. Sarah Bond now being the president of Xbox, like, now it makes me wonder if, like, now, because Phil Spencer has been nurturing Sarah Bond since like 2017. She has always been in the showcases. She had always been put whenever they're talking about like the big gets of Xbox, like what's coming to Game Pass, or like the Japanese kind of like the Japanese games that started coming to the companies. Like, she would be the one putting in the work, flying all over the world, interacting with people. She's the reason right now, like, Sega has a really strong relationship with Microsoft, to the point where Persona is a franchise so associated with PlayStation. Like, Persona 5 was exclusive to PlayStation for a while, a bit before it went multi-platform. It's like Persona 3 Remake, promoted heavily on Xbox, day one Game Pass. That new Magic game that looks like Persona, that they announced at the showcase, I always forget the name because it has a really weird name, was pushed on Xbox first. Like, that's where it was revealed. Then putting the best version of Persona 3 and 4 on Xbox, because there's only PS4 versions of those games. There's like native next-gen versions that's not on PS5 of those games. So it's like, that is the work Sarah Bond did. And now it makes me wonder, now they're going to basically give her the keys of the kingdom. She's going to be now the front face whenever we see showcases moving forward. She's going to be like the one that MCs the full event. And Phil Spencer, now as CEO, is going to kind of like just recede more in the background and just like oversee everything now. And I think that would be good, because Phil Spencer, as great as he's been for Xbox, he also speaks both sides of his mouth too often. Sarah Bond doesn't have at least as many PR snaps. So this kind of feels like a great time for Phil Spencer to be like, my work here is done. My work here is done. I'm overseeing this now. I'm gonna put more key people overseeing everything, and we'll see how it goes. Like, to give credit to Xbox, like, they had a great year this year with releases. Like, they put out games. Whether you loved all of them, it's like based on taste and all that, but they had said that they want 4 to 5 first-party games to come out of their studios at least every year. They should now that should now be like the case. They hit that this year. So congratulations to Sarah Bond, because she's really beloved in that community. And she showed up at the Iron Lords podcast. So she made, like, Iron Lords podcast is relatively small, like, when all things considered. She made the point to show up there and with those guys. So this is like, at least she has been like, she has had more of a grassroots like interactions with both the Xbox community and developers. So everyone had been wondering, is she gonna be like the next face? And this confirms it. So congratulations to her. And I still keep hoping that even though I don't love Starfield as much as I did initially, I really hope that this starts this cadence where, like, Xbox continuously becomes like a system worth like going over to their site to play whatever they put out for, especially with how easy it is with Game Pass.
At least for my truncated thoughts, firstly, for Starfield, I think it's only going to get better. That was the starting point. It was rough, but 5 to 10 years from now, I don't think people are going to remember any of what all of this was going down.
Yeah, and technically, a lot of people still like that, and people really still like Starfield. It's like,
so it's kind of a good starting point for them, honestly, especially considering they plan to put out expansions, DLC, mod support, all of that good stuff. As far as Sarah Bond is her name, right? I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like I'm suddenly attributing a lot of the good decisions that Xbox has made to her now. So I'm hoping to see her play out as the head of Xbox. Really awesome to see a person of color, woman, in like a video game
huge
related
position. Remember when we talked about like position Microsoft being a little bit more inclusive, but it was like not many back when they announced
I remember
ABK.
when they were like, oh look, it's all their pronouns and it's all white people, and I don't know about this.
This feels like walking the walk of that, at least putting someone in that important of a position overall,
actually doing something that's like real change. That is actual progression, and clearly she did not just like buy her way to that position. Like, she earned it. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do. That actually makes me curious to see what Xbox is going to put out. Everything's going to have her seal of approval on it. Clearly she's mending relationships with the Japanese department. it all sounds fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Mhm.
I'm like, if I ever see her, I'm going to apologize for the sake of all white men in the gaming
Yeah.
industry, because it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, in a lot of those spaces. But
Mhm.
if she can stick it out and have a really solid support system, I am
Mhm.
100% on board with her running Xbox.
Amen to that. Like exciting times, especially now that they have ABK now. It's like the time of excuses is over. You have enough content. Like, do you have enough studios now to be able to deliver a consistent pipeline? It's like, if this, with all they have, is still like they ran into problems, then I have to really question like their ability to like handle anything. But I feel this year at least proves it gives a good idea of like an overall good year of Xbox could be. Like they put out more than Sony, like at least Sony really coasted this year. And I want them to and I want them to feel the heat, especially now that Call of Duty is like they own it, even though it's not gonna be exclusive. They own it now, and all the time that we saw Call of Duty best on PlayStation, get all these exclusive skins on PlayStation. They already announced all of that's going away. No more exclusive betas and all that stuff. Fun stuff, fun times ahead, and I can't wait. I need that kick in the balls for Sony because when they get their balls kicked, we win.
Most normal people would say, let's light a fire under them. Like a
Yeah.
normal person, you're like, let's kick him in the balls.
Because at least we're like, if you let someone on fire, you kill them. You don't kill, well, depends on how you hit them. Paul,
I'm going to read the releases now.
Yes, for the week of October 29th to November 4th.
Oh, gosh. All right. So we got Resident Evil Village for the iOS. Again, October 30th. Resident Evil Village Winter's expansion also on the iOS, October 30th. It kind of reminds me of that moment in Jimmy Neutron where he's like, "This is Ultra Lord," and the teacher's like, "This is the 7th time you've brought Ultra Lord."
Yeah.
But I will say I'm glad that they're at least somehow managing to make it work so well on the iOS system. So
because of iPhone
wasn't it
15.
supposed to come out on Android too, or is it no?
No, this is the iPhone 15. The iPhone 15 kind of like the Pro that you can make it like a console. So that's what they're releasing.
Sweet. Okay. Gushing.
That's the climbing journey game that they announced at the Xbox show.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. So that's coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on October 31st. The Forest Cathedral on PlayStation 5, October 31st. Alien Hominid Invasion on Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 1st. Yeah. Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story. Sounds like Tak and the Power of Juju.
Yeah.
PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 1st. Blasphemous 2. I swear, I feel like this game has come out 3 times now.
Because it's been staggered. It was like on PS5 and PC and all that, and then was like on Switch.
What's going on?
Yeah, now there's a PS4 and Xbox One version.
Like, this is the 3rd time they've released Blasphemous 2, I swear. Yeah. So anyway, this comes to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One finally on November 2nd. For the King 2 on PC, November 2nd. Blade Up with an exclamation point on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch on November 2nd. Power Wash Simulator coming out for the Quest on November 2nd. RoboCop Rogue City, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on November 2nd. Solid game. Don't think it's going to be my cup of tea, but it's impressive what they can pull out. That is a definition of like a AA game for me.
Yeah, the RoboCop game, right?
Yeah. Star Ocean, the second story R, because the Japanese developers love putting random English letters into their titles. PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, Switch and PC on November 2nd. Yeah, thanks Tetsuya Nomura. The Smurfs 2, Prisoner of the Green Stone, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 2nd. The Talos Principle 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on November 2nd. The Thirsty Suitors.
What the heck is this? I need to see this.
What is this? Leisure Time Larry?
Yeah.
Thirsty Suitors on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 2nd. Vampire the Masquerade Justice, PlayStation VR 2 and Quest on November 2nd. And lastly, WarioWare Move It on the Switch on November 3rd.
Thirsty Suitors is a skateboard cooking RPG. So
skateboard cooking?
Yeah. That's how it's been described. If you,
All right,
if you,
that made
yeah,
me more interested. I'm gonna look this up.
yeah, it's supposed to be like a role playing game. So, by Annapurna. So it's like again them releasing like we always like interestingly weird games. Yeah,
I mean, good
and,
for them.
yeah,
Like this is somebody's cup of tea out here.
yeah. I am hoping the
Oh,
Smurfs 2 has enough interest that an IGN is first to review it, and then they put Travis to review it. So,
that
I
poor man has apparently gone through so much crap.
oh yeah, they just
But
throw like
anyway,
he did dodge the scythe. He was able to dodge the scythe twice this year with the Kong game, and there was another one and the Avatar game. So and he's reviewing the Moira game, and he said it was okay. So a lot of games, it like in dumped in that week.
oh yeah.
And by the way, on November 3rd, if you pre-order Modern Warfare 3, that's when you can play the campaign. So the Star Ocean, the second story art, like it has the Octopath Traveler 2 art style, the 2D HD thing, and that was at the Nintendo and one of the Nintendo Directs, and it looks so cool. But it's like the Star Ocean franchise. It feels like a bunch of them showed up on Extra like recently. It's like so many of those games. So it's like I wonder if like in my cake of JRPGs that I got this year, I would feel interested, but I want to hear more. Like, but it definitely looked appealing. So, and I hope RoboCop is good. Like I've heard so many things that it could be because it's like so like well produced to like AA game. So,
That's
and
weird, that's for sure.
yeah. What's funny is that the Switch list was here. They just recently announced that the Switch version was canceled. So
Huh.
yeah,
That's
so
funny.
they didn't update it here in the list for Game Informer. I think that just came out yesterday. I saw it in a skill up this week in video games. I love watching that video of his. So
Wow.
they're always so funny. But yeah, I hope like Travis reviews one of this fun. It's like it's so funny hearing him like go through the bad games. So Paul, that concludes this week's episode of the X Button. Now tell me, where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter/X. I break video games, post cool clips, and sometimes post drawings that I make. I actually did make a drawing of my D&D crew that I haven't uploaded yet, but I have some other projects that I'm really hoping come through if full-time job working wasn't such a really draining process.
Yeah. And without too much of a free time for you to like be doodling more like you used to.
Yeah. I definitely don't have the same kind of time that I used to have. Like I would
maybe
sit
one day
back and for like the whole day, I could pick a day and draw whatever I wanted. But yeah, we'll get there one day. We'll see.
Yeah. And then you can find me at A_Joe on Twitter/X. You can find me at Alejandro 93 on both Threads and Instagram. And you can find my written content at both seasongaming.com and thecriticalcorner.com with my two recent reviews showing up at thecriticalcorner.com. I will be reviewing Alan Wake 2. That will be over at Season Gaming. So I'm going to be more, I'm going to be serving both websites a little bit more. Season Gaming is okay with doing that. Like I talked to them that I was going to review Spider-Man on my own, and they actually were okay with that. So that was kind of like my big thing. I was like, I'm contributing to them, but also posting. But as a contributor, is like I have freedom. So I'm going to be putting more. So, and the good thing of posting my own content is that I get to write it, I edit it myself, and then I put it out there in the world with like at my own volition, not having to wait for edits. So obviously that makes the reviews feel a little bit more edited. So that's like the difference between being self-published and being under someone that publishes. But Paul, it was always fun getting to talk games with you. Everyone else, thank you so much for listening for this episode. Definitely look forward for our follow-up Spider-Man conversation later on Saturday, after you listen to this episode, and go play more Spider-Man if you haven't beaten it. You probably did if you blasted through it like we both did. There's also many million other games. Go play maybe Alan Wake 2 or anything else that you probably hadn't caught up because it's been that insane of a year. Touch some grass for a little bit and
Press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.